All right, welcome back to the Gateway Defense Podcast. I'm your host, Brennan Brennick, and of course, I run a company called Gateway Defense. We're traveling the country every week, pretty much, teaching people what we know about performance shooting. When I'm not on the road, I'm busy trying to crank out a bunch of content like this for you guys. And listen, I know that I have been slacking big time on the podcast episodes. We had Justin on the last time. We talked about his road to Grandmaster, making GM, huge milestone for him. But lots of changes are kind of coming to the YouTube channel if this is where you listen to the podcast. We're going to be kind of restructuring some things, but something I do want to keep going pretty regularly is the podcast. So today we're back at it, which I'm super excited about. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics today, not necessarily just one really specific thing, but the topic in general today is going to be everyday preparedness. So I'm really excited about this one. I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways for people of kind of regardless of your background or experience level. And I'm excited to welcome Kenzie Fitzpatrick to the show. Kenzie, thanks for coming on with me.
I'm stoked to be here.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into it. So everyday carry for everyone, right? Before we get into that, just give everybody who might not know who you are, kind of from my side of the content world, who are you and what do you do? And just kind of we'll set up the topic that way first.
Sure. Yeah. So I think a lot of people know me as a professional competitive shooter. I've been doing that for years now, and it's great. But where I'm really passionate about is firearm ownership, training, and concealed carry. So what a lot of people don't know about me is for the last decade, actually 10 years of my life, I've been teaching people how to carry a gun. I've actually certified people in Florida and in Tennessee for their concealed carry permits. So when I first moved to Tennessee, actually 3.5 years ago, not even 2 months into moving, I already took my class to be an instructor, got certified, started teaching. And so with the content world too, I am a professional writer, published writer, if you want to say that, in the industry. And where I specialize is testing out gear and guns and ammo and optics, right? But I'm very passionate about finding what works for people. What's garbage? What's not, So that's kind of my background in the firearms world. I carry every day. I live and breathe this life. I check firearms when I fly, and carry a gun. And I find that really important. On the road, I probably have 2 to 3 guns that I carry. But all of that's a really passionate thing in the gun world. And of course, the competitive shooting thing is just fun, right? We both do that and we get experience from that. But my thing too is just being competent with a ton of different guns. Doesn't matter the size, what have you, the maker, the manufacturer, and all of that. So that's a little bit about my background.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. So, I mean, I think what's important for everyone to know is, number one, you've been doing this for a really long time, both carrying a gun and then competing as well, which is a whole nother level of skill. But there are so many lessons that we learn through experience that we can be told over and over. When you got into concealed carry and just kind of this idea of practical everyday preparedness, how much content was there kind of out there for you to watch and be like, okay, this is solid? Or was there a way for you to vet people or YouTube channels or classes? What were you looking towards at that point?
I'm sure they existed back then. So when I got started was actually around the time that the Glock 43 first came out, the 42 and the 43. And that was my very first switch over. I actually carried a Smith & Wesson Shield. But where I'm going with that is no, there was not convenient YouTube channels. There was not any of these slimline design pistols that we have now at all. And I'm not talking about men versus female gun types, right? But I'm just talking about the slimline framed guns. There wasn't really a lot of articles, and there wasn't a lot of digital content too. So yes, it existed, but I feel like there's more magazines is what a lot of us looked at versus seeing so many online platforms now. Certainly all these podcasts, even mine, did not exist 10 years ago. So where I started is actually sometimes a little bit cringe for me to think about, because I took a lot of, I would say, advice from different people, law enforcement officers, military, and honestly, my dad and people that are a little bit of an older generation. And so I'm gonna admit it, it's painful. My very first holster was a leather holster, and it wasn't an Uncle Mike's or anything like that. It was still fit for the gun that I had, but it wasn't the retention I prefer. It wasn't the weight that I recommend anymore. It is. So it's funny to see the evolution of even my journey and what was out there. Now Brennan, it's 2024 and there is not a single excuse on planet Earth to not put a gun on your body or off body and have it on you. Doesn't matter the body type, size, height, whatever. It's incredible what we have now versus what we had back then, because a lot of these systems too to carry a gun didn't exist. They weren't even on the radar, you know?
Yeah. And I think of I carry in a tier 1 concealed holster, right? That company didn't exist 10 years ago, right? Well, hopefully Jared doesn't fact check me, but I'm pretty sure that they started around like 2014, 2013, something like that, right? So maybe right in that time period, but like people are there's just so many resources for people. So anyways, for the listeners, guys, hopefully we can help you kind of sort out some of this. Like, we're going to kind of tell our stories a little bit. Definitely, I want to get Kenzie's side of this whole discussion, but I don't want this episode to come off as like information overload. We want to really kind of help you guys direct your focus and like, okay, so here's some good options. Here's a good place to start. And then, well, why would I even consider these options in the first place? So anyways, there's lots to dig into, and I'm sure we'll get into the nitty gritty. So let's just start with this question. What is practical preparedness to you? Right. And would you say practical preparedness, and that's just a term I just now came up with, would you say that's different from, or how is it related to the idea of everyday carry?
Yeah. So I think practical preparedness is when, even at home, but when you leave the house, do you have the tools and everything that you would need to protect yourself and yourself alone, maybe your family if you have kids and whatnot. But where I'm going with that is, first of all, if you leave the house, not a tool, but your mind needs to be practically ready. So if you are not leaving the house with a mindset that there is evil out there in existence and that you need to have your head on a swivel, and the world, is a perfect sunshine roses place, I'm sorry, but you need to wake up before you leave the house. So that's the very first thing I'm going to say right there. We're talking about transitional spaces too when you're going places, whether you're in your vehicle where you spend a lot of your time. Your practical preparedness needs to start with your vehicle. So for me,
especially you spend a lot of time in your vehicle.
Oh, you'd be so proud. 2 days ago, I bought my very first, it's on the ground actually, a jump starter box, because I learned that I will be in the middle of nowhere and I will not have someone to help jump my truck off. I don't have that problem with Toyota, but I have it with Ford. So where I'm starting with that is kits like this. So I have a fix a flat kit. You have your jump box, your jumper cables. I actually have a whole case of water that always lives in the back of my truck. Underneath my truck seat, you will actually have a go bag. So I have my backpack. I have towels. I have hoodies. I have an entire 3-person medical backpack. This is going to be information overload. Maybe it's preparedness overload, but guys, I take this very seriously. So when you get in my truck, there's even a kit of a mug, a fork, a knife, and a spoon. We're going to be,
I love it.
That's really important to me. When I leave the house too, obviously I have a gun. I'm getting better at this. I'm not perfect at this. So here's where my vulnerability comes in. I need to think about more medical training. I need to think about more medical gear. I am working on that. I also leave with a multi-tool and a knife, kind of simple stuff for me. I even have a lighter kit, like matches in my truck, and a fire starter kit. So these are stuff from my backpacking and camping experiences that I'm just warmth, food, shelter. Those are the things that are on my mind. So start with the mind, and then you need to have the tools to be able to deal with these things that come up.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they will kind of look at maybe that stuff. Like if you just kind of showed them your everyday kit, right? From and it's categories, right? So there's on body, there's bag carry, and there's vehicle loadout, and then even just what you keep in your house. That's part of everyday preparedness, carry-ish, right? But just staying stocked with stuff so that you can live more than 3 days in your house, right? People can look at that and just be like, oh, you're paranoid, right? That's a word that we hear a lot is paranoia. And the way that I try to help people think about this, and tell me what you think about this, but for me, there's some things that I'm going to carry with me that I'm just going to carry because I use them all the time and I can't really function without them, right? Yeah. So for instance, my phone, right? Straight up, I shouldn't be as dependent, but we all are. It's communication, it's navigation for the most part. work, social media, whatever it is for me, like 90% of it is on my phone right now, right? So I can't leave without that. I can't leave without my car keys. Like I have to have my car keys, right? Wallet, like in general, if I'm going places, I'm probably spending money. So too much money, but I've got to have payment with me. And so those things are just like, you've got to have them. Right. And everybody has those pretty much. But then there's things that like I categorize as high consequence items. So I would put the gun in that category. Right. Do you have to have it to leave the house?
Yes. Here's what keeps me up at night. I'll just say this really quick. And this is what I live by. It shouldn't be the right thing that I do, but I do. My thought process is, if tomorrow's headline says, concealed carry owner, professional firearm shooter, writer, like all of my titles, right? And it says, dead because she didn't have a gun on her. That's the headline that keeps me up at night. It sounds insane because I'm like,
no,
what am
same
I doing
for me.
Yeah, like practicing when I'm preaching. The one time I'm like, I don't need it.
Dude.
I'm going up the road. Guys, like that is the fear of God into me every single day. And I'm glad I have that. Like it keeps me accountable.
It is exactly the same for me. It's like, how many people have you taught how to shoot a gun, right? How many people have you got into everyday carry? And how many people have you told that, hey, competition shooting is good for you as a defensive shooter, right? And Gateway Defense, Brennan from Gateway Defense got jumped because he was too lazy. Like he was a lazy piece of shit. Like that's what it is, right? So yeah, I have a responsibility to not do that. So like I would put the gun right in that high consequence item. Do I have to have it to leave my house? No. But if I don't have it, the negative that could result from me not doing that is so big that it's now an essential, right? There's so much of that stuff. I would put medical in there as well. Right. And, medical is a huge topic, and we're going to get into all of these topics, but I'm just trying to categorize this. But like medical would be one of those things. What would be something else that would be, really high consequence?
Hydration for me. So
there you go. Yep.
I literally leave my house with, I always have a mug or some sort of travel mug. I always have a case of water. I'm not joking. A case of water will live in my truck bed till the day I die. And then silly stuff, but I have a little life straw. That's the same thing. I have this like Magpul Daka bag that has the smallest items, collapsible mug, those fork, knife, spoon, and then a life straw. So if you can get to a body of water or source of water, then you're good to go. I live in Tennessee in the mountains. There's water everywhere. I mean, I got a creek in my backyard. Yeah, so I'm good. But if I'm traveling and I really was desperate, I can filter my water.
Yeah. And even just like sketchy tap water, right? So like you can access a sink, but it's like super sketchy. Okay, cool. Just filter it and now it's safe, right? Super cool. And then so there's high consequence items, there's the everyday necessities, and then there's just kind of like convenient stuff that we have that we've just decided, hey, this makes my life easier, so I'm going to have it, right? Things like a pocket knife is that for me. Like my life is not over if I leave the house without a pocket knife, but I'm 100% going to run into a situation where I wish I had it just for a convenience factor, right? So I think it helps people to maybe kind of think about things in that realm. I think the biggest one though is the gun for everybody, right? People usually have actually a pretty dialed EDC already, whether they know that or not, or call it that or not. But for people who are really kind of looking to get into this lifestyle, I think the gun is the main difference between you and maybe somebody who doesn't carry, right? So where do we start with that? Because that's a huge commitment, right?
Yeah.
Help me unpack this.
Yeah, let's unpack it. So, if you have someone that that does live, breathe, and sleep this gun industry, right, and you're listening to this podcast, Brennan and Kenzie right now, ask them, right? So that's a really great resource and a great place to start. Now, maybe you don't have that and you're not listening to this podcast. I would hope that those people would seek out professionals. And this is the debunking time that I'm going to be very vulnerable and honest about this is, unfortunately, they do go to military, law enforcement, NRA credentialed people. And to be honest, that does not equal professional, expert, great person to give advice to. That's reality. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that have anger just by saying that, but that is the truth. We see it every single day that we live in this world. And so the very first thing you should do is understand that you have to take accountability for it, for yourself and yourself alone. This is not a decision that needs to be made by your parent, your boyfriend, even your kid, your cousin. It is only down to you. You can take advice of maybe what guns to look at, what manufacturers to look at, what might work for you, but you do not need to go out and purchase something or be given something that was not fitted to you or was not chosen by you. So when you're looking at guns in general, if you don't know a lot about them, that's a pretty scary place to start.
Yes.
And that's a pretty big purchase. So here's what's crazy to me. People are like, I don't have the money to buy a carry gun. $600 is too much to me. And I'm like, really? You drink Starbucks every single day. You go out every single weekend and drink alcohol. You get food delivered. You go out to eat. You buy cars and houses that are tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can't spend under $1,000 on a really good gun. What are we doing, people? Like, you're really going
Right.
to... It blows my mind that people are like, I only have $200 to spend. No, you don't. Promise you don't.
Right.
I've had more people come to my classes and have malfunctions with the cheaper guns, or maybe used guns. That would be the other thing, is like, I am not about to carry a used gun as a carry gun. That's the other thing. I would buy new. I really would. I would just recommend starting there from scratch, because you don't know if someone treated it right, if they've done maintenance, if they've cleaned it, if they've modified something. That's a terrifying thought to me.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know if that's a good start placement, but honestly, getting a mentor is number one. And then number two is picking it yourself. And then the other thing with that is trying it out. So I wish this existed, and it probably doesn't in a lot of places, but my range growing up, Talon range, they had tens, I don't even know, hundreds probably now, of demo guns. So I was able to go shoot 6 different firearms that I was interested in and figured out what worked for me. Was that trigger good? Was the grip good? I'm not so worried about sights, because all of that stuff can be modified, but if you can't even fit your hand on the gun or reach the trigger, like, we have issues. So if you could get to a demo day, if you could get to, I know you've been to a ton of different range days that are out there, trigger cons, public, NRA sometimes will have a public event. Ohio Range Day, my Gals Day is a perfect example. There's not enough of those, right? It's once a year, but I'm just saying, if you can get to an event where you can try guns, the Gathering, Clinton House, holy shit, like, that's open to the public, man. You can shoot 100 guns in one day. So I'm not even going on and on. That's my thing, is if you get hands on it first, that's important.
Yeah, that's huge. Another option is a lot of like indoor ranges that have that are also gun stores, which pretty much they all are. If they have a pretty good rental program, like I know the range back where I used to live in South Carolina, City Arsenal, they did like, so you didn't have to pay for each rental. Okay. So you just paid for like the amount of time that you spent. Right. So you could go like literally like grab a Glock 48 and go shoot 30 rounds through it, and then bring it back and be like, hey, can I try the Shield Plus? And they're like, okay, cool. And you swap it out. And like in an hour, you could try like, 15 guns or something like that. And literally that's what I did with my wife. I had some ideas of guns that I wanted her to try. Right. So that's me, a mentor, kind of pushing her in the right direction. Like, hey, these brands would be great options. They all have, guns that are kind of right along the lines of what you're looking for. So kind of steer her in the right direction. And then there were guns that I thought she would really like that she just hated. For whatever reason, she had zero experience with a gun, but she was like, I hate that gun. I was like, why? She was like, I just do. It's the worst. And I'm like, okay, right. Like, well, that was my favorite gun. But she had that experience. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't want you to have that gun then. Right. Like, I'm not going to buy that for you.
If you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to put it in a holster. And then if
100%.
you have holsters later, but if you're not comfortable with it on your body within a minute or two, like, you're not going to carry it. So let's start with that.
Exactly. And like, let's be real. There's an emotional attachment to our things that we have. Right. And so if you picked something out, you are going to like that thing, whatever it is, more than if someone else picked it out for you.
I can't wait to show getting these guns. Dude, there's 3 different colored holsters and a colored gun. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's so dumb.
I love it. All right. So, okay. So finding a mentor, right? That's maybe kind of the first thing, right? Just getting hands-on, getting experience with guns, right? Yeah. What's the biggest hurdle that you see for people who are looking into like carrying it? Because buying first gun and carrying first gun are very different in my opinion. Like, when people ask me about buying their first gun, like, I don't recommend to them a great carry gun necessarily. Yeah. Right. But when they're going to carry their first gun, okay, now this is something that's going to be extremely personalized. Yeah. Right. So let's dig into that one a little bit.
Yeah, so like if you find a gun, we'll just say full size gun. We love the Glock 34. It's massive. It's easy to shoot.
Sure.
It's accurate. That's something that's not going to fit in anyone's pants. I'm just going to be real. So when you are looking at a gun, okay, you might love it, but where on your body are you going to carry it? And so is that going to be appendix? Is it going to be 4 o'clock? I do not recommend carrying the back of your, small of the back, but if that's you, fine. If that's not going to fit in there and conceal, that's number one, conceal. We're talking about concealed carry. And this is my opinion. It might not be yours or other people's, but I do not recommend open carrying, period, end of discussion. You are making yourself a target. It doesn't need to be known that you have a gun. Honestly, if I see a gun, I see somebody open carrying, I don't think that person has much training. Like, I actually think the opposite. Now I'm fearful of this guy, and he's an issue because he probably is going to do stupid stuff because he hasn't trained.
Yeah, so I agree.
Okay, good. I'm like, that's a red flag.
Which is different than outside the waistband concealment, just so people are clear. Like, you can have an outside the waistband concealed gun that is different from open carrying. Open carrying would be like everybody can see it. It's out in the open like a cop, right? Not cool.
Yep. So, so that concealability is what I'm saying is if you try to put it on your body wherever you're going to put it, and ladies, we have a different body type than men. If stuff sticks out, if it's not going to be concealed in whatever clothing, that's going to be a big issue. And so the clothing is something I've had to preach, and it's really not men. This is speaking to the ladies. I wear leggings every day. Cool. I have an option for you. You're not going to love it maybe, but it's an option. Well, I'm going to be wearing a dress. Cool. You're going to be wearing a purse probably. So we're going to be talking about that off body carry, right? So whenever I'm preaching to this, is like, there is zero excuses. There's belly bands. There's the Enigma. There's these off body carries that I have. They're not cute and stylish, right? But death, guys, or are we talking about taking care of ourselves and our family? So yeah, concealability. How are you going to carry it with clothing? That's the other thing to look at. And then your everyday life. So for me, I used to carry appendix, and I can't anymore. I literally carry while I'm building a pergola in my backyard. I literally carry when I'm hiking in the mountain. Appendix for me is just not comfortable when I'm taking up steps or bending over or whatever. So I needed to find a 4 o'clock holster. That's just reality for me. So that's the other stuff to look at is your lifestyle, your clothing, and then is it concealable? And of course, we'll talk about the gun with fitting and comfortability and all that. But that's the trifecta is that I'm looking at.
So what, if you're kind of thinking about that, then what are the characteristics you're looking for in a gun that you are going to conceal, right? Let's just jump into that. Let's jump into concealability and being able to actually wear this on body, because I think you and I would both agree that's the number one most preferred method for carrying a gun if it can be on you, right?
Oh yeah, it can be on you. Please put it on you.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of designs now that are called slimline pistols. I kind of mentioned that earlier. Obviously, Glock's got the 48X. We have in front of me, which I'll show you, is the IWI Masada Slim pistol. So I carry this every single day. It fit all my boxes. So it's a very slimline design. It's super easy to grip. And then if you have smaller hands, there's no excuse to really not being able to reach the trigger on this gun. Now, so like PDPF, I have the PDPF. This is where the color comes in, Brennan. Anyways, there is actually I know we're talking about the gun, right? But there is a mix of gun and holster that goes to this. So all of these guns that I'm really showing about, we'll talk about holsters, because the clips that you choose, the claws that you choose, if you need to have a wedge, all of that's going to play into this. But first of all, your grip needs to be able to tuck into whatever body part you're putting it on, appendix, 4 o'clock, what have you. If it's a way too long of a grip, like a 1911 sometimes is way too long for me, that's not going to conceal. So I'm not talking about these tiny, tiny compact pistols, but I am talking about that. In terms of slide length, barrel length, all of that, I can't carry a Glock 19. I have tried. It does not conceal in my body, but a Glock 43 all day will. The other one that I've been trying now, and this one's a little bit too big for me too, is that new Smith & Wesson carry comp pistol with a light. And so I know I just showed you 2 guns without a light, but one of these guns, they don't even have a tack rail, right? So that was kind of not a red flag for me, because I really like the gun. So I have an off-body flashlight that I carry. But if you are spending your life outdoors and your life, in the dark, or you work a late night shift, what have you, you probably are going to 100% need a light. So now we're talking about a gun that has a tack rail. So I'm looking at the slimline design, the length of the barrel. I do not want it to be snappy either. When I say that, I do not want to shoot these little 2-inch barrel pistols, right? I'm talking about 3.5 minimum on a barrel length. Is kind of where my happy spot is, to maybe 4.5, or 4.25. I'd say 4.25 is probably what max. And then for me, I know it's dumb, but red dot is going to be a thing. And again, sights don't really matter because you can get aftermarket sights, but you just saw all three of these guns have red dots. Just
Yeah.
it's how you train.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's a for sure thing. So yeah, so with carry size, right? I mean, so when you're looking at the gun, so this is ironically my competition gun and my carry gun are the same thing, but that's because I can get away with it, right? So when you're looking at the firearm, you mentioned like being able to reach the trigger, reach the controls, right? That's definitely a consideration, if especially if you don't have like big man hands or anything like that, right? So having a gun where you can actually reach things and you feel comfortable manipulating it is 100% a thing, right?
And manipulation, though, is going to be a thing that you were going to have to learn how to manipulate the slide. The
Yes.
excuses of like, I need an easy slide, and then you want to have a thumb safety, grip safety. That's the other stuff. That's incorrect. You're going to have to learn how to do a push-pull technique with your body, with your hands, and bring it into your body. So I just want to mention that on the manipulation.
Yes. But like, okay, so for me, Smith, I'm a big M&P fan. Everybody knows that. This is the 5-inch, so the biggest 9mm they have, right? By biggest, it's the easiest to manipulate and use and shoot, right? So biggest common misconception that I see people think is that a smaller gun is going to be easier to use and shoot.
Way worse.
Negative. It's going to be harder because the slide is smaller. It's got less mass, right? And so in order to get that thing to consistently go back and forth, then they have to put in a really heavy spring, right? And so now you have a tiny slide and a super heavy spring, and then a short barrel, which means that when that round leaves the barrel, the amount of gas that's coming out of there, right, does not have as much time to dissipate, and there's not as much frame and slide to soak up that recoil. So when you start looking at these small guns, I think you have to kind of balance that idea of shootability, right? Which you're talking about, like you don't want a really snappy gun, with this idea of concealability. So you were talking about the grip, right? And saying a longer grip is going to be where you're going to get a lot of printing, right? So would you say typically you're kind of looking at kind of the top and the front edge of the gun right here, of that being the primary spot you're getting printing?
Yes, and I do not want my pinky off the gun. So when you're talking about the biggest gun with the most capacity you can carry, and then I don't ever want a gun where my pinky is just sort of floating. So it does.
Why is that?
Because I've tested this out, Brennan. Recently, I had the Kenitics Meta MC9. Love that gun. However, I did the Flush Fit magazine, and then I did the like pinky extension magazine. Every single time, and I did appendix, but I was practicing drawing. It's on camera. I would pull up my shirt, grab the gun, and because my pinky was dangling, these two fingers didn't really get a grip on the gun. Now it's angled. If I don't have a good draw out of the holster, what's the point of having the gun? If I have to readjust on the fly or what have you, then I have issues. As soon as I had the pinky extender and was able to wrap my pinky around it when I drew it up and had all three fingers on the gun, no problems. And here's what's crazy. Not a minute later, somebody else was doing the same thing. And I was like, hey, I was like, are you using the Flush Fit mag? He's like, yeah, I can't really like get it out right on the right time. And I was like, it's the pinky, dude. Like, you can't have that floating around. So even though I say slimline, it doesn't mean it's shorter necessarily, but it's just a slimline gun, and my fingers wrap around further. But my pinky is not dangling on this gun that I carry either. So.
Right. Yep. And I think that's super important. And that's going to come down to like the training piece, right? As soon as you start shooting guns, you're immediately going to start having even stronger preferences. Right. And I'm the exact same way. The minimum grip length for me has to be, I have to at least get half a pinky on there, right? So that I can control the gun, right? That's a huge part of the leverage piece when the gun recoils like this, right? If we can support it down here, I mean, it's going to be a better experience for us. So yeah, getting as much hand as we can on the gun as possible, while also balancing the size of it, because obviously, like for 99% of people, this rig like is not going to conceal well for them at all, right?
No.
Okay, so
real quick,
go ahead, yeah.
And I'll preach this into training. Training matters, but if you are listening to this and you've never carried, or you're really uncomfortable with carrying, and that's going to be like probably in your head for a little bit, please do not get a gun with a grip safety or a thumb safety. And I'm going to preach this for a very long time. 90% of students I have had in my classes, because they're new, I'm not talking about after they've left me and trained, but when they come in, they have their carry gun and they had the Easy, or they had the Ruger, or they had whatever, Taurus, the extended, or the thumb safety. These thumb safeties, guys, are so freaking tiny.
They're tiny.
I even tried, I love the bodyguard, the new 380 bodyguard, but you know what? That thumb safety, it is not going on. It is not coming off. I had to physically use both thumbs to depress it, especially when it's new. Okay, so preaching that, your mind is going to be so under stress. And if you only shoot a few hundred rounds a year, you are not going to be the person probably training to get a perfect grip on that gun. If you don't get a perfect grip on that gun, or you don't adjust to get the right grip, you're going to safety yourself. Now, on the thumb thing too, here's two things. If you have it on and you're drawing and you don't get your thumb on there and depress it down as you're drawing, it is going to be too late by the time you're pointed at a target and you're not having the gun go off. And you're like, oh my God, I got to get the safety off. Here's what I saw this weekend. And this is what I taught a lot of people. These were new shooters, went to a shoot, and they had a 1911 style gun, and they would draw the gun. They would take the thumb safety off, and then they would put their thumb underneath the safety to grip their gun as they would a normal semi-auto. And I watched several people wonder why the gun wasn't going off, because they safetied themselves. That thumb underneath it
ended up back up.
Push it right back up.
Yep.
And so it's super frustrating for me to be like, what do you know? 1911s are the best gun, or like, I'm going to be able to do it. I've had this forever. If you don't train, if you don't dry fire, if you don't live fire, if you don't practice, and if you don't compete with it, like I compete with a 1911 style gun, it doesn't mean I need to carry one. You need to be able to draw and point and shoot the gun. Because guys, these guns, besides one company, I won't say, are drop safe. They have built-in trigger shoe safeties. We all know who we're talking about. But I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Like, if you don't trust these manufacturers and if they don't do their safety due diligence, that's on them. But like, carry the right gun. Okay, that was a lot, but I had to say grip safety and thumb safety is a no on carry guns.
Yep, totally agree, because it's a learning curve, right? It just like you don't want to buy like a race car for your first car as a kid, right? Well, maybe you do, but it would not be a wise choice, because there's so much more going on with driving that car efficiently than it is to like drive like a Honda Civic, right?
Yep.
And so yeah, take as many of the variables out as you can, get good with a gun, practice with a gun, and then if you're like, hey, I want to be a 1911 person, then more power to you, and you can go dive into that world. I mean, you're sponsored by Nighthawk, right? So you shoot
and the first
a really nice.
I moved from a striker fire gun to the 1911 style gun. No joke. Yeah, there's a video of it somewhere. And I pulled the trigger, and I yelled to myself, safety. And then I took the safety off. It was like, I safetied myself in the very first matches with the Nighthawk. Like, oh, I got to get used to this.
Yeah, it's a big change. And that's for like an experienced shooter. So, yeah. Don't mess with that on your first gun. Yeah, I like that advice. So we're looking for something that we can get a full firing hand grip on, right? We're looking for once we can get a full firing hand grip on the gun, at that point we're looking to go essentially as small as we can, or once we've met that threshold, we're trying to look for the most comfortable. I mean, how are we balancing this, right? The size of the gun and the concealability.
Yeah, so actually I say the largest gun you can conceal, minus being able to get a full 3-finger grip and reach the trigger. That's number one. Grip and trigger. Those things need to be able to grip the gun, and you need to be able to fire the gun. After that, if you can carry, there's some women, great, they can carry a Glock 19. Let's go. That's awesome capacity. If you can conceal it on your body, this is awesome. And I know we haven't gotten into it yet, but outside the waistband carry with jacket and fall clothing, you live in a freezing freaking place. I'm just going to say that. But in the winter, your full size carry is probably an option because you have those clothing. So now,
absolutely.
Cool. And we haven't touched training, but if you swap guns, and I do, like I have all in front of me, you need to train with those. You need to know those guns. So yeah, I say full, you need the biggest size you can conceal, I'm not talking about trying to put the smallest thing and have no print, because in reality, I probably print a good bit, and I don't mean to, I really don't, but
that's for the shootability side, right? Right? Like that's why you're going bigger, because the bigger guns are easier to shoot, right?
Way easier.
Okay.
Way easier. Yeah, and less miserable. But yeah, it's a tough thing. So I don't know if you want to dive into like your very first week of carrying, but we can talk about that too next.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it, because I think that will be a good segue into like how to carry, and because the amount of time and effort and investment you put into carry methods and learning how to conceal, like just putting your shirt over the gun does not make it concealed, right? Sometimes it's worse, actually. Like if it was open carried, I would probably ignore it more than like the way that it is sticking out of your backside, right? So, okay, let's jump into that.
Okay. First of all, your very first week, I want to know about your experience too. My first week of carrying, I was actually felt paranoid. I was looking at everyone and I was sweating and I was like, they see my gun. They know I have a gun. I have a gun on me. Oh my God, you see my gun. And I was so freaked out and I was sweating. I was nervous. I felt, I don't know, like it was just a whole week that I had to get through a feeling heavy, like feeling the gun. Now, guys, and I mean this, I just drove 11 hours one way to Missouri and back this past week, and I still carry it 4 o'clock when I drive. I have a whole seatbelt maneuver I train with, but 4 o'clock for 11 hours in the truck, I didn't have any problems keeping my gun on me the whole time. It was comfortable. I know my holster. I like my gun. So you need to be able to sit with it too, right? So I'm curious about your first week and then also the driving side of stuff.
Yeah. When I started, so I had like terrible holsters that had like 0 concealment features. It was literally, I wish I could remember the name. Actually, I do. It was Versa Carry. Hopefully they're not like a sponsor of yours or anything.
No, but they are Leatherman holsters. They've come a long way.
But it was at the time it was leather, right? So I'm not dissing the company, but I will diss this product, right? So it was leather. It wrapped around the gun, right? So like you would put it in, and there was this little like a barrel plug that you would stick in to the bottom of the gun, right? And so that was like the bottom of the holster. And then there was a leather wrap that had a magnet on it that would magnet to your slide, so that when you pulled the gun out of the holster, the whole holster would just come out like a big like handkerchief, and it would be flopping out of your waistline. So in order to holster it up again, you would literally have to take the holster off, and like you could do it. So you could like do it without setting the gun down, but like it would be easier if you would set the gun down somewhere, right? Which is obviously a huge issue, but you could like get it and like put it in and then magnet it around, and then you had to like reholster the whole thing. So there's no like, draw, shoot, reholster. No, you have to take the holster out. So that was my first holster. I thought it was super cool, but it didn't conceal well. And I was like, the biggest thing for me was I would always fidget with it. So I would like grab it and just like move it. And you like, that's just not something people do. Right. Nope. So yeah, I'm sure I was just broadcasting that to the world, but it was fun. Yeah,
it is fun. And it gets you through, and anything you do, it doesn't matter what it is in life. Starting is the hardest thing. And once you start, then the hard part's past. Okay. Holsters though, and oh God, I have a lot of things. So I know this brand has a lot of controversy, but it's my very first holster for this gun. So here we are, but it's a T-Rex gun. And this is the PDP. This is a full size gun. Now, what's neat about the features of this gun and why I want to bring it up is there are 2, and I'm not talking about magazines because, oh my God, people are dumb. Clips. Talking about clips on the holster, not magazine clips.
Yep.
That's not a thing. Okay, so these have 2. And what is unique about this is you have the claw on the outside. So the claw, and these are all inside the waistband holsters. Yep. The claw is pushing against whatever belt you have to try to negate that grip angle. So instead of this holster kind of flopping forward, that claw kind of pushes it forward, and that's really nice. Now, similar. Okay. And that's like a totally different, probably appendix holster is more comfortable because you bend and flex. And then you can do the sidecar like you have. Tier 1's awesome. I need to get more of them. I'm a huge fan of Phlster because I mentioned the Enigma. I don't have that in front of me. But what I want to say, what's different about this holster, these clips are closer together and they have these like internal hooks almost to show that under your belt. And like you're saying, when you draw this gun, the holster's not coming up, and then you're not taking the holster off to reholster your gun. That was something I learned at Gunsight too, by the way. We had a lot of manufacturers that sponsored events. I'm not going to say who, but there was a couple times when I drew the gun, the holster came up with it. And now the holster and the gun's coming out and it's just a hot mess. This has a claw still, so Phlster does a really good job on that. And what's nice about this holster is if you are a light person, that's awesome. You should be. These retention on the light and not on the gun model. However, they still are fit to specifically like full-size guns or what have you. So that's really important. And then you can adjust the retention to your level, this ambidextrous. So that's the other stuff, man. If you're left-handed, I'm sorry. What you got?
Yeah, so that's the floodlight, right? So I carried in a floodlight for years. Super good. I never got the updated version that's all stripy stripes. But I carried with the old one for a long time. Phlster is a fantastic company. I regularly push people to them, even though I have zero relationship with them or whatever.
Right. They're just awesome.
Yeah, so like I upgrade. This is another tier 1 holster. But like I upgraded this, these clips. They're from DCC, Discrete Carry Concepts. It used to be when I first started using them, you would buy your holster and then you would like go onto their website and buy clips for $11 a piece. And they would ship these like little clips to you. And then you would tell them like what holster you had and he would try to send you the right hardware. It's a whole thing. Well, now like all holster manufacturers are dealers for DCC. By the way, if they're not, like I would probably not get a holster from them most likely. Like if they at least need to have that as an upgrade option because it's such a good upgrade for the most part. So yeah, spring steel, super good. Clips actually do make a big difference. You definitely want something which those DCC ones are probably the best, but you can see it really easily like on these clips. You want an underhook, right? To grab onto the bottom of your belt, and you want it to go in front of the belt and then down underneath it. You don't want it to go behind the belt and back out like that. Like it's not as secure. So look for a clip that looks like that. Yeah, that's a great starting point. Okay, what else?
So the off-body stuff. Do you want me to show kind of my bags?
Yes. Let's first talk about why you would carry off body.
Yeah.
And I also, hang on. So I'm backtracking even again. So carrying, we said before, carrying on body is the most ideal thing, right? Mm-hmm. Why? To me, it's just accessibility of the gun, right?
Yeah.
Accessibility and like how fast you can get to it, as well as full control over it as well. Like if it's in a bag, there are times where I might have to set that bag down, like physically let it out of my hands, at which case it is not in my full control anymore, right? Yeah. So downsides to that. So if you can carry on body, I'm going to carry on body. I'm going to carry inside the waistband. I'm going to carry with a holster material, right? I'm going to carry in something that's hard-sided, that completely protects the trigger guard, and I cannot get my finger inside the trigger whatsoever, right? Yeah. So I can't bend this away. That's going to be a huge thing.
If you don't do a light holster, or even if you do and it's based on a gun model, please stop buying holsters that say one size fits all. This fits all double stacks. This fits all whatever. The gun or the holster really, really, really needs to be molded to that firearm model. And I know a lot of people that have reached out before too have some really obscure guns with some. That's the other thing. Obscure gun models. Obscure lights and nobody supports in the aftermarket world is a very bad decision.
Yes.
You probably do need to pre-look at whatever gun you are really interested in and making sure that there's an aftermarket support for it on holsters. That is like bottom line, guys. So like Streamlight, honestly, and Surefire are probably the two lights that you should look at, and everything else is really kind of difficult to find holster manufacturers for.
Agreed. Yeah, Surefire and Streamlight for sure. For a smaller light, that's good. I think Streamlight is pretty much the best option. Affordability and performance, to be honest. The TLR 7 series, there's a bunch of different models now, so check them all out. But a lot of people are supporting that light, which I think is solid. The only thing I would say about the universal, so if it says universal, it's probably crap. Like, don't buy it, with the exception of the Phlster floodlight.
Exactly.
And the tier 1 concealed Modern Samurai Project MSP holster. So those are both designed very similarly. They do accommodate a bunch of different guns off of the same light, but they're the only two holsters I know in existence that actually do it correctly. Where they don't fudge with the safety of it at all. So anyways, okay.
Yeah. So that's really important.
So picking the light before you get the holster too, like you've got to look into that, right?
Yeah, because there's no aftermarket support for so many of these guns, guys. And like, you might have to find a one-off guy that'll take a mold, or even I've these crazy people I know that have shipped their guns off to get a holster made. Like, what are we doing, folks? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I know those people though.
Yeah. You can avoid that with some research.
100%. And then, okay, I didn't even mention this. I know we're getting off body carry, but maintenance of your gear, even in competition world, and competitors know this, but maintenance of your gear is really important in the carry world. And you know, I've carried every day for 10 years on body if I could. So 90% of the time. And I have had holster screws back out. I've had clips come off. And one of them was a Versa, and bless their heart. But so it's something where when I get these, if their screws are not Loctite them down. Once you set them up too, like when you're looking at these two holsters that are ambidextrous, then I can change like with the Nate Tactical, how far down I want the clip, depending on how far you want it to conceal.
Sure.
Set that and then Loctite all of your screws. That's really, really kind of number one. Other than that, you know, obviously the gun maintenance stuff we could talk about too, but you know, batteries, all of that kind of stuff is really fun with the lights. But I wanted to mention that too.
Yeah. Okay. So So I think that's good. I think I know I have a very long video about like inside the waistband holster selection. Go watch that. I'm sure Kenzie has videos on it as well. DM us, talk to people who have been doing it for longer than you have, and start getting opinions. But I think that covers the basics. So okay, so inside the waistband is an option. Off body carry. So this is another option that I think makes carrying a lot more accessible to a lot more people. But you've got to do it the right way, right?
Yes.
Okay,
so
talk to me about off-body carry.
Ladies, listen up. Okay, these purses. I'm talking about specific purses that have like two handles. You have to hold it with your hand or your shoulder carry. God, it's awful. That have like I've seen it where it's like oh God, how do I say it? It's like a Velcro square, and then they'll have like a Velcro type holster that's like sitting upright. Or I've seen the really cringe ones where they have their own compartment where it's a Velcro like backing, and then they have this like, I don't even know, leather holster with a Velcro strap that goes over the back strap of your gun. Guys, we're not talking about Velcro back straps ever, or any of these like buckle, you know what I'm talking about? The old school leather buckle snap cap. Yep. Oh my God, guys, no. So first of all, I don't accept any of the purse carry options out there. I really don't when it comes to a bag that you have to have on your shoulder, or a bag you have to have handles with, or where the gun just sort of floats in there or floats on a holster that's not made for the gun. So let's nix that right now. So where I'm talking about for off-body carry is like, for me, I do backpacking in the Smoky Mountains. Today, actually, I was building finishing off my range platform, and I went to Home Depot for a real quick second, and I didn't want to put on belt loops and a different pair of pants and what have you. I have an off-body bag that I carry a lot, but this is in front of me, meaning like it's a Vertex bag. It doesn't look too like oh, I have a gun here, right? This is very girly, and I've seen a lot of girls now, which is awesome. Late night or just traveling, they have these kind of in front of them, and it might look weird, but here we go. So this sits right in front of my chest, and I train with this. So if you have to like unzip a bunch of compartments to find it, or if it's not set up for a quick draw, that is a terrible bag. This actually, I think, is Lena Micklick's model bag, and she has super cool. Well. Yep. So my zippers are set up for my right hand draw. So all I need to do is find the zipper, pull down, and then my hand goes in, and I'm holding the zipper still, and then the gun comes out. So that's the whole thing, is that you have to train with how you would put this in there. But this is my little baby Glock 43 on a crossbreed holster, still fit to that gun model on a Velcro backing with Vertex. And then I just zip it back up. So yeah, I don't love zippered bags unless you train. And I'll show you the other one that I have that's magnetic closure, but this sits right in front of my face. It's the same kind of draw I would do if it was appendix carry, what have you. And it just makes it super convenient. And the other day or last week, my friend that came and visited, I have my IWI Masada Slim on. And then I also have this on because it's also like my purse, my keys, my wallet, everything that I need is in here. So now I have two guns on me, right? Yeah. So if I lose this, I still have a backup, but that it just is normal. And this is a very lightweight pistol, 6+1 rounds. Like, I mean, it's not a huge capacity, right? But I'm just saying, if you had to, that is a great option to have.
Yes. That's super cool. Okay.
The girly one that you've seen that I absolutely freaking love. I've worn this I don't work with any of these brands, by the way. I just find them. And I forgot to tell you this at the beginning. I have tubs downstairs of holsters, of magazine carriers, belly bands. I have gone through the ringer on my own dime to find what works. And then I've also worked with a lot of these companies to send me stuff to try and test and see what works. So if you want to save a lot of time, keep listening.
Yes, 100%.
So this is the UUB Gear Ukawala bag, and I've worn this at SHOT Show, at NRA, at all these trade shows, events. Now, you can set this up for so many different ways because there's two different straps. This actually is going on my right thigh. It's right in front of where my right hand is. And you can set up for sort of like a crossbody type style, what have you, but this is the easiest way. So it snaps around your waist and then around your thigh. What I love about this is it's a magnetic closure. There's no zipper. And this is actually a Velcro insert. And so that same holster that I have, if I wanted to wear this bag, I would take the whole gun out with the holster and just put it in here. And then when I'm drawing, it's closed. There's no printing or you don't see the grip. All I have to do is stick my hand and pull the gun out. This is my favorite for that reason. A lot of people like the 1911 thing with the grip safety and thumb safeties and all of that, guys. It's similar to this. If you have 3 zippers to get to your gun, that's way too much time, right? So if you're not trained with the zipper, get something that's a magnetic closure to be able to get in there and grab your gun.
Cool.
Final one.
I call that the saddle bag right there. It's like a human saddle bag.
I agree. Okay, this is very tactical. It's 511. This is probably one of my other favorite bags. It is. I wore this for years too. What I love about their bags, and this is more of like a backpacking one that I would totally recommend, is you can actually attach this to their 511 backpacks. So this kind of just sits underneath. So for travel and stuff, it's super easy. But same thing, you have this like waist belt loop that you would clip in. You do have like a thigh strap that you can put in as well. And there's other compartments. So you can put your pistol, or sorry, your phone in here. You can put your keys in the front pouch. It's zippered. But my pistol sits up.
Does that hook to your backpack straps like a chest rig?
Yeah.
Oh, that's legit.
This is a game changer where you could put this on the back of a backpack, on a chest rig. Like 511 has thought of everything to connect this to other bags.
For hiking, that's legit.
Correct. So there you go.
All right.
I actually won this gun, so this is the one. Don't judge me too much on. I don't love it, but I have it. So this is a zipper closure. Right hand people, you want the zipper on the right side, and then left hand people, you want the other, because your left hand's going to unzip it, and then my right hand would go in and draw the gun. So I have same thing. This one's a little bit harder to show. It's still a crossbreed holster in there that's Velcroed on the Velcro backing, and then this is just the SIG P365 XL. And then I have a mag carrier pouch on the left side as well. So now I have a gun and a mag carrier. It's a little bit bigger of a wider bag. So you just have to make sure whatever gun you have fits it. And then I'm telling you guys, crossbreed holsters, I used to write for them a lot. I still have a code, 3Gun Kenzie, if you want to share that. But if you want a good holster to do this stuff, these Velcro holsters is what I use in all of the bags. I even have a bedside. Do you have a bedside carry Velcro thing? Have you seen that? You know what I'm talking about?
I have seen that. Yes, I do not have that. No,
Brilliant.
Because I just have an AR leaning against my wall.
Okay.
So
I have a lot of guns loaded, ready to go. But I'm just saying, if you roll over and it's not like these military guys leave their spouses with a gun under the pillow, just in the holster under the pillow, just have fun. I'm like, that's not great.
Not good. Yeah.
But yeah, they make this cool panel that sits in between your mattress and your like pad or whatever, and then you can literally put that Velcro right there and then draw your gun in the dark. But it is cool.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about purse carrier where you just throw the gun in the holster in a bag. I've seen that too, and that is a nightmare. I'm not talking about having.
That's a huge no-no, by the way.
Huge.
And also if you do that, like if that is the only thing that is accessible for you right now, that's like preventing you from, like, if you leave or you're like traveling somewhere right now listening to this podcast and that's the only way you can have a gun on you. Okay, fine, I get it. Sure. Let's improve. Right. But if you are just throwing a gun in a bag, it needs to not be chambered. Like if it has external safeties or no. Like if you just take a gun and dump it into a bag, just like if I take a gun and dump it into a range bag, same exact thing, that freaking thing is not going to be loaded. Right. It's not going to be chambered. I would probably have a magazine in it. Right. But like, we're not going to chamber that thing. And that's why your option with the crossbreed stuff, I've got other options to where like I can take my entire inside the waistband thing and hook it into a little thing inside my bag. Right. So that the trigger is still not accessible and none of the safety stuff is compromised. Like that's a huge deal.
You're the lady that had a gun she threw in her purse, so this gun's empty, clear, what have you. And you know what's in our purses, ladies, a lot of times? Okay, pens, lipstick, what have you.
Lipstick.
This pen 100% can depress that safety. We just fired the gun. I have seen that firsthand. I have seen this happen. And so I've also seen a lady get hot brass down her boobs and then shoot her husband through the balls sack. completely one end to the other. So
you saw that in person?
Yeah, and it's on video. It's like on the camera. So yeah, no, this stuff happens. I'm sorry. Okay, I digress. However,
fun. That is that hurts me in so many places.
It was really painful. So I'm laughing. But like Brennan said, you can, if you had to, right? We are happy. What we're saying is we are happy if someone just has a gun. If you have it at least in a bag, in your car, like great. We are so happy. Mm-hmm. But guys, let's step up. This is a serious tool. I don't call these weapons, by the way. I never have. That's just kind of my vernacular. It's a tool, just like John Wick with a pencil. It's a tool. So, your car's vehicle manslaughter, guys. Vehicles probably kill more people than guns do. I'm just saying everything that can be used to hurt someone is real life. So, at the end of the day, respect this thing. And then, we can dive into training. But so that's my on-body and my off-body carry options. And we didn't really get to mention a lot of it, but I said it earlier. The Phlster Enigma is its own belt built into this holster rig that can, and then straps, really tiny thigh strap inside your pants. My friend Caleb Giddings wears it with his revolver every day. And he's a dude. He doesn't have to wear belt loops. Even though he does, he prefers the Enigma.
I have two of them.
They're amazing. I brought the first one, kind of like your Phlster was the first one, the Floodlight. I have the original Enigma. Like now it's innovated to like a really, really cool level. But even the first one was really cool.
I think I do too. I think I was on the wait list for that when it came out, because I was like, this is really interesting. It's the best option in my opinion. Like doesn't even come close. Like no other options even come close in my opinion for beltless carry. Pants that don't have belt loops, whether that's yoga pants or shorts or sweatpants. And I have definitely rigged up stuff for carrying a regular holster in sweatpants. It will get you by, like you can get the gun out, but it is not a lifestyle thing. Like you cannot do anything other than walk around and sit down and stand up. Right. So anyways.
Before you jump in, I know we keep digressing, but I want to mention belts and clothes really quick, especially for women. So really quick on the girl stuff. There is zero excuse to not be comfortable and carry. And here's where I'm coming from, ladies. You like leggings? I do too. So there are two companies that I wear their leggings to shoot 3-gun in. So before I tell you the brand, I'm just going to tell you right now that I'm carrying the Nighthawk, which is 5 pounds, fully loaded, 3 pistol magazines, 2 AR magazines. It's literally durable. Shotgun caddies. I'll have my, 2 shotgun caddies on this belt, and they are holding these, all this gear up. So Vakandi apparel, they have belt loops, and they also have zippered pockets on the right side. They have non-zippered pockets if you just want to do that. They have tiny pockets for your knife to go into or what have you. So I've been wearing those a lot. And then We the People just came out with some really great female leggings as well. And they're cute. There's black, there's blue, there's red. You guys have all seen me in my red pants. But I wear those to compete in, and I wear those to carry a gun in. And then again, I don't work with any of these brands. I just think that they have made some really great stuff. The other one, I'm sure you've heard of them, is Arrowhead Tactical Clothing. Have you tried those yet?
I have not, but they seem pretty legit.
They're awesome. So I didn't think that they would be great. I'll just straight up say that, right? A lot of these companies they miss the mark.
They look kind of gimmicky.
And they're not. So here's what kind of blew my mind is they make these joggers, and they make sweatpants, and they make shorts. So that's another thing, ladies, shorts. The belt is very kind of hard to explain. So imagine sweatpant joggers, but the belt loops are on the inside, not on the outside. So on the inside. And then what they ship it with, and they recommend it, and you don't have to use it, but they have their Omni belt, and it's made of seat belt material. So it's kind of like the old 511 style cinch belts, but you thread it through, and it has a hook closure. So then if you have to go to the bathroom, which ladies, this is important for you all, you got to take those pants down, you can unhook it and then just shimmy yourself out of it. But it's sturdy enough to carry, kind of, I would say, a mid-compact gun. They're not great for full-size carry guns in terms of the belt and the sturdiness, in my opinion. This is my opinion. This is my experience.
So maybe up to a Glock 19 size gun?
Yeah. And what's cool is when you hook your holster clips into the belt, it's in between the outside waistband of the material of the sweatpants and those belt loops. So you have zero showing clips. It's really cool.
Nice. That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's super cool. So a long time ago, not a long time ago, a few years ago, I was trying to figure out how to do that on just normal pants.
Yeah.
Because I was like, for like suit pants, or anything where I need to tuck in my shirt, which I try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
Just, if I'm in a situation where I have to tuck in my shirt, then I'm in the wrong situation, right? So, but like I used to wear a lot of formal clothes and like suits and tucked in shirts and stuff like that. And I was like, man, if I could like run the belt inside and clip to where normal clips are not going to show at all, that would be so cool.
Yep.
So it sounds like they've pretty much figured that out, which is legit.
And then there's pockets. There's still pockets. And then they make this like little structure, which I appreciate on the We the People clothing too. They make this like corner structure material fabric to be able to hook your multi-tool, your knife in. So it's not sliding in left and right. It's actually stable.
Nice.
I do appreciate the little things. Like I know I'm probably missing some of that stuff, but that's important. And then belts. I know you and I will have probably a preaching on the belts. I have a million different belts. At the end of the day, there are 3 belts that I recommend. Core Essentials is like my game changer belt right now, man. And they make the best inner belt on the competition side, hands down, because it's not overlapping with like hard on hard. It's this stretchy material and it's really thin. Anyways, Core Essentials, check them out. They're like a ratcheting system. There's cute belts, there's dress belts, but at the end of the day, guys, they are super freaking sturdy, rock hard all the way around. Similar to that, I mean, they're probably biggest competitors is Next Belt. So it's the same thing. Next Belt and Core, they have ratcheting belts. The difference in these guys that you need to hear is for Next Belts that I found is that they make 1.5-inch belts for like some carry people, and they make 1.75 for the dress side of things or vice versa. So I struggled with having the holster clips that would fit that belt all the time because it just seemed like my clips would be the 1.75 and I would get the 1.5 belt, and then it's not a good fit. And then the other one is the Hunter Constantine belt. Like I've been using that lately because it's more comfortable for travel. The way Hunter designed it is half structured where it needs to be for appendix and 4 o'clock carry. So you have that hard, durable, like non-moving type belt. And the rest of it is a stretchy material fabric that is super comfortable for you. So if you are in the car for a long period of time, it's not super structured all the way around your body. And then you hook it in, hook it off with these 2 little loops and your hook closure. And so those are the 3 that I use every single day.
Yeah. I love that. I have the Constantine belt as well. It's super comfortable for driving. So whenever I'm going to be in the car for more than, an hour or 2, I definitely want to wear that belt because it takes the load off my hips. Like it takes the hot spot off, like of like the back of your hips, which is where like traditionally if you sit down and then like your stomach is pushing on the gun, the gun's pushing on your belt, the belt is getting super tight at like 4 o'clock, and then the opposite, whatever that would be. So yeah, that is a super good belt. And then I've actually never owned a Core belt, believe it or not. It's like I've always had belts that I felt like did the exact same thing, and I was never looking for it. But then at the same time, I've had a bunch of people send me belts. And then I just got to the point where I was like, there's no way I'm going to spend money on a belt right now because I have literally a wheel of belts.
I know. I do too. The back of my door actually has like this hook thing that's all of them are just in there. Yeah. Okay. Have you seen the competition belt though? The inner belt specifically that they make?
I have. Because it's got like an elastic area that cinches, right?
Yes. And then when you're tightening your outer belt, how many times do you have to take your outer belt back off to retighten your inner belt tighter to get it? Dude, it drives me nuts. So I'm just saying for all you people out there listening, the Core Essentials competition belt, specifically their inner, you get the package, but the inner belt is the most game-changing design for something so small. And I'm laughing, but yeah. And then the reason I like Core next for carrying, if you're going to go out to eat and you're going to eat a lot of crap, by the way, and you need to loosen your belt, you can just unratchet it a few.
Very discreetly.
Yeah.
And then order more sushi and you're good, right?
I'm not joking, but
Yep. It's a thing. It's a thing for sure.
Oh, that's that. That's what I want to say. And now we can go to training if you want.
Yeah. So I would say, once you have your gear sorted out, I mean, the training part is what separates you from being essentially, in my opinion, a liability to an asset, right? Like that's the main difference is can you use this stuff and do you practice with it? And you don't have to be a GM to carry a gun, right? But you do have to have a level of proficiency. And I think the most important thing is that you know what you can do and what you can't do. You have to know your limits and your capabilities, and be very, very honest about that with yourself. So what's kind of the best path you recommend somebody take as they get into like everyday carry training and concealed carry type shooting and going to the range or taking classes with the concealed setup?
Yeah. Well, Gateway Defense, guys, is really good. And look for some fun stuff in 2025. In all seriousness, if someone, I'm going to say the negative stuff, Brennan, but this is going to be a hot take. If there's an instructor out there promoting the fact that they're an NRA certified pistol instructor, what have you, and that's what they're proud of, run for the hills. That is not the people you want to learn from. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Yep. Super low bar.
Super low bar. And you talk about these indoor ranges that have like where you can demo guns or what have you. And a lot of them have really have a lot of classes. And the permit classes, if you're taking a permit class, is not a handgun training class. That is not something you need to go to learn how to use a gun. That's not even going to teach you that. So finding instructors is going to be the challenge. But if you do look within the shooting sports, guys, there are so many really good high-level shooters that also are high-level instructors that can help you. But we're talking about defensive stuff, right? And we're not all going to be able to afford, like I got to go to Gunsight. I got to go to where our families train. Gateway Defense comes to you. There's a lot of really good instructors though that are traveling and training people. Like Frank Proctor's another one. He does a great job just on fundamentals of pistol stuff. But you need to look at your instructors across the country. Probably Google USPSA, IDPA, 3-gun, like these shooters. And again, you don't have to be GM, but maybe someone who's at least A or above would be recommended. And they need to be competent and be able to demo. So if you do go on their social media, you should watch their videos. Like, can they actually perform? Are they actually shooting under pressure? Are they taking classes themselves? That's the other thing. If they are like, I don't need classes, I know everything, right? Wrong instructor. They're always learning. 100%. I learn from my students too.
Yes.
I wish, Brennan, maybe I wish there was like a central hub in America where they hit a website, right? And it tells you like, these are legit people. These are the people you need to go train with. Typically our own competition world, again, will help you with who to take in your area and instructors can come to you. But there's really not a good way for people that don't listen to this podcast, that don't know us, to really find a credentialed place to go. And honestly, I don't recommend training on your own to start out with if you have the means, the time, and the capability to go take a class. And the reason I say that is I love it. If you want to dry fire, if you want to live fire, awesome. If you do that incorrectly, you're actually establishing bad habits because you don't know how to train. So that's the other stuff is like, and half the classes, you're not going to a class to learn like how to do stuff perfectly. You're going to a class to learn what your flaws are, what you need to work on, and how to be intentional in your training. So how do you go home and take what you learned to dry fire and to live fire?
Yes. And I would say too, like if you go to a class and you walk away from it feeling like what you did in class, you can only do in class, and there's no setting you up for training, because a good shooting class, regardless of it, if it's defensive or competitive, should give you lots of homework, right? Like you should leave going, okay, I feel like I have a much better understanding of where my skills are and like what level I'm at and what I need to work on and how I'm going to work on it as well. And like, if the instructor doesn't set up the class in that way,
fail.
Yeah, it's just a money grab, in my opinion. Like they want you to come and train with them only, and rely on them to get better. And that's not it, right? A good instructor is gonna want you to get better on your own, and then 100% you go back and see them and see what else they have to offer for you at that new skill level. But I totally agree with that.
Now, where do you think that they can find a lot of these? But beyond just Googling, right? Like, how does someone find these people that they should train with? Like, how? I don't think there's a good answer sometimes.
Yeah, it is not a good cut and dry answer, because one, we're all gonna have our own like subjective biases, right? So if no one has ever heard of me, they're like, well, who is Brennan from Adam, right? I think the big danger is looking to like kind of arbitrary like resume like fun facts, I guess, or not fun facts, but just people's resumes only for good information. So the way I say it is, you need to exercise common sense and put everything kind of through the common sense filter, or like the no bullshit filter, right? Of like, is what this person is saying, like, does what this person, says, like, is that something that makes sense to me? Does that seem like logical? Does it seem safe? Does it, things like that? Just because they have law enforcement background or a military background or whatnot, like, those people are probably, for the most part, if they're putting out instruction, going to be fairly squared away on safety, right? Yeah. But the shooting skill may be, severely lacking. It may be awesome also, right? Like, I know cops who are GMs, right? Which is, insane. They'll stomp me at a match. But then, 99.9% of law enforcement officers, unfortunately, are not going to be in a position to really teach a lot of beginners or understand shooting at a high level to even disseminate that information. So the way I would tell people to do it is you need to kind of get online and start looking around, start following shooting pages, start following instructor pages, and just start paying attention to the kind of content they're putting out. I think the big thing that you said is, are these instructors demoing a high level of skill? Right. So if everything on a page, and like, no offense to somebody if this is what their social media page is, but if it's like sitting in a studio like I am now, like holding up a thing and just talking about it, right? Like which we did this whole time, right? But if that's all of the content and they're saying, hey, I'm an instructor, right? And I'm going to teach you how to shoot, but there's no examples of them shooting.
Yeah. Pass.
Yeah, like, no, like, I'm I'm not going to gamble my money on that, right? Because I'm not made of money. I've got to budget these things out. I'm going to look for somebody who's demonstrating high level of skill, also demonstrating the ability to teach. So if they have like educational content on there and you like the way they communicate, that's probably going to be a pretty good place to start. And then as soon as you kind of find one person that you're like, I really like that person, I really resonate with, his or her message. They seem to be like a really squared away shooter, blah, blah, blah. That person is going to have good recommendations because they've been in it and doing it longer for, than you are. So like, let's say you find Kenzie's page and you're like, okay, very cool. Like, you're not full-time instructing, right?
No, I wish I was. And that's the thing. I'm not going to have that educational stuff. I think that most people are going to have, but I have been teaching the newer shooters. So like when Brennan's at a high level, awesome. You should probably go to him for a competition, a high level moving and shooting and what have you. For me, like, I could still teach that, but at the end of the day, like, who are these people like really tailoring content to or really know? And like, for me, that's going to be the new people.
Yeah, and 100%. But like, if somebody finds you and they go, okay, let's say whatever, Kenzie's teaching, 8 classes a year, but they're all local and I live across the country and there's no way I'm going to go see her in Tennessee or whatever it is, right? And then you're like, I really like her and I like what she's putting out. Well, then reach out to her and be like, hey, do you know of any like traveling instructors who might be coming to my area? And then she's going to give you a list of, 10 or 12 people who she knows are going to be traveling, right? And same with me, right? Maybe there's no need for me to come to your exact neighborhood, right? But I probably know somebody or I'm friends with somebody who I can recommend that is coming to your neighborhood. And so then you start building this list of people to be aware of, people to follow, people to just kind of keep track of. And I think that's maybe the best way. And I wish there was an easier way, but you have to filter everybody because everybody's got an opinion. And some people will recommend someone, and that person is maybe not worth it to me.
Yeah. And okay, so I've taken, I think maybe 6 classes. Now I try to do like 1 a year, big time. And maybe I've done more than that, but on the defensive stuff, like the stuff that I don't suck at, but like, I'm not great at, right? I don't train that all the time. So you might take a class and you might actually struggle with that instructor, even though they're a really good instructor and really good shooter and they put out really good content or what have you. And you're in the class and you're like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. At the end of the day, do not stop there. I've actually had that myself where it's like, I just didn't understand what they were seeing because they couldn't teach me because I'm a example. Like I have to do it to learn it. I can't really understand if they're like drawing pictures or trying to tell me, like, I can't see it. Right. So where I'm going with that is don't give up on that training. Like, so I'd sign up for a different class and then I had a really good instructor that would demo first, always, which is really important. And then I would do my thing. And then we would talk about what went wrong, what went right, what have you. So finding the right instructor for you could take 2 to 3 classes. Like I don't want you guys to waste your money, but at the end of the day, like that is true. And here's what's crazy. I've had 3 instructors that said the exact same thing, but said the same thing in a different way, in a different manner.
Yes.
And so it takes 3 times sometimes for that information to click on what's going on with the gun or what have you. And so that's something I've learned over the years is like the right fitment, or just hearing it multiple times or in different ways is what's going to make the big difference. So.
Yeah, 100%. And what's nice too about social media and like YouTube and things like that is you can kind of get a preview, like a really good preview sometimes of what somebody has to offer and be like, hey, I really like, maybe something, multiple things that instructor said in this video really resonated with me. I never heard something explained that way, but it instantly made sense. Okay, cool. That's probably a good person to go like try like spending money and taking their class and traveling and investing, $1,000, $2,000 into yourself for that experience and that, that training. So, I think there's a lot to navigate, but start with finding just one person, 2 people that you trust or that you resonate with. And I think you'll find yourself going down the rabbit hole very, very quickly.
Yeah. When it comes to carry guns, it's a totally different training environment too. Like at the very beginning too, is like when you first get your gun, you do not you don't load that gun up and you put it on your body, period. Doesn't matter who you are. When you buy a carry gun, the very first thing you should do is go home, probably disassemble it and reassemble it, learn how to clean it, understand how it malfunctions, if there is going to be malfunctions in that gun, and then dry fire with however you're going to carry it. So if it's 4 o'clock, if it's appendix, it's from one of these bags. I'm talking about reps on reps on reps in the most intentional way. Meaning if you are going to draw, you're not doing this slow and like pulling it out and pointing it. No, you are literally trying to get that gun up and out as fast as possible. Every rep should be the rep that will save your life. Like, and I'm being dramatic in a way, but I'm telling you, like, if you train poor habits or if you don't train this seriously in dry fire, it's going to show up in live fire.
Yes.
So, my friend Kelly, I've been teaching her carry. And when we get on the gun or when we get to the range too, and like we want to work with our carry guns, we do not just be like, all right, let's draw and shoot. We actually, all right, we got to prep ourselves and get back in this routine of dry fire at the range. Like we might dry fire 100 reps and only live fire 20 rounds that day, right? So it's not going to be more live fire. It's actually your dry fire, guys. So that's really important. You've got the spare magazine. I don't always carry spare magazines because I have 2 guns sometimes, but it's like, if you have that, how are you clearing your carry garments? And if you have your gun out and you're shooting someone, how do you get that spare magazine or the other magazine back in or blah, 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 right?
Yep.
And then you're spending so much time in a vehicle, and this is going to take a really special range and a really special place to train. But if you can find a place that you can actually shoot and move around cars, around vehicles, under them, throughout them, man, some of those classes that I've taken are just incredible. Thunder Ranch is a place that does it. There's a place in Georgia that does this too, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. But you are not going to just be standing and shooting at paper 3 yards away for concealed carry. I'm sorry, you're not. Yeah. You're probably going to have groceries in the hand. You might have your baby in your hand. You might it's just, there's so many different scenarios. So if you're not training in how you live your life, like it's not doing you any good. Sorry, had to say that.
No, I love it. And that is, I know for sure, like if you get a new gun or new holster and you've shot it, you're like, hey, I like this gun. I'm going to put this into the carry rotation or whatever. This is the new full size that I'm going to carry around, or this is the new micro compact or whatever. Or you get a new holster, like the very first thing we do is we put it on in our house and we dry fire it with it for a week, right? Yeah. Like I will put that thing on and mess with it and pick it up and mess with the clips and the positioning and everything until I'm happy with it.
Yep.
And until I'm super happy with it and the dry fire is going really well and it feels natural, okay, now I'm going to wear this out in the public, right? Yeah.
Okay, here's my other harp. Listen good, people. I have had people show up to my class that has had hair, like say, for example, hollow points in their magazine, their gun for years, and they've never put it on their body. Maybe they've had it at home, they've had it in their car, or they have worn it. Guess what? Those people have told me, I've never fired these hollow points through my gun ever. And I was like, cool. How do we know that they run? In fact, one lady with one pistol, again, I won't name it, didn't feed her hollow points. Every single round would not pick up on the feeder because of the bullet profile. Yep. Therefore, she has a stick. She couldn't even get the gun and battery, right? And then these people that are practicing, I do so much hollow point training, guys, with that Smith & Wesson carry comp. It's a carry gun. I shot 5 different types of hollow point brands to see what fed, what felt good, what was accurate. I have all of this data of like chronograph, accuracy. At the end of the day, guys, sure that stuff is important. You need to make sure that your gun works with your carry ammo. And I do not care how expensive it costs. If you're going to carry a gun, you need to go through a hollow point box or two. I know they're expensive, 20 rounds, 25 rounds, what have you, and make sure they feed, make sure they eject, make sure it all works together. And then to confuse people more, Brennan, probably I don't want to, but the plus P or plus P plus ammunition, there are some guns that are not rated. What that means is plus pressure or plus pressure plus, right? So your gun, you need to check your manual or Google or what have you, make sure it can handle the ammunition that you are going to throw in it, because some of these guns cannot, and I've seen barrels blow up.
Yeah. So, yeah. Super good point.
Not carry ballpoint ammo, or I will hit you upside the head with this magazine. Okay.
Right. Yeah. You definitely need hollow points. And just for people to understand that, like, we want it to expand on impact, and we want it to slow down on the first thing it hits. We don't want it to go through and through and through and through and keep going. And even hollow points, like with pistol calibers, like they're not even that great at that either. Nope. Like they still tend to over penetrate and go past and through things. Like people are pretty squishy, right? And they definitely like to go through drywall and things like that forever. So yeah, you definitely need to kind of do your research on that. You said, you know, some guns don't cycle things as well. Spear Gold Dot is like a renowned defensive round. Very good. Like if someone's carrying HST from Federal or Spear Gold Dot, like I'm like, yep, you're good to go. Right. So I put Spear Gold Dot in my wife's 43X. Which it's a Glock, right? Glocks are supposed to run everything. Like those rounds are longer than other rounds for whatever, like the projectile itself, whether it's like the seating depth or actually just the length of it. Like if you don't pull the slide all the way back into where it bottoms out at the back, like you get a malfunction, right? So when you're shooting it, it's not a problem because that slide's going to go travel all the way to the back and bottom out. But when you're just racking it, like when I rack my gun and when I go to load my gun, I go magazine in, I just do one of these, and like it might not go all the way to the very, very back because I don't need to. Right. With her gun, it was like, what is going on? Is this like not work? And I was like very confused. And then I was like, oh, these are actually like pretty long rounds. Right. And so like there's another option that will like that feeds in her gun just a little bit better. And like that's just not something I want her to have to mess with.
No.
But it's Glock, like incredibly reputable brand. Spear Gold Dot, incredibly reputable round. Those two things, for whatever reason, and that 43X just like aren't like the best pairing. Yeah, 100%. So anyways, you got to check that stuff.
I mean, I know I'm biased again, but I've shot for Supervel for years, but I have used their ammo in so many different guns, and I bought their ammo before I ever became sponsored by them. But I'm telling you, I wanted to show you the bullet profile. So when you're talking about hollow points, it's probably not the best video, but they don't have like a super aggressive, like open hollow point where I've seen some of them. That's where the feed ramp will catch, is on that kind of tip of the hollow point. And that's the biggest thing. But Supervel invented the jacket hollow point. So they've been around forever. That's the other stuff. Federal has been around forever. Supervel has been around forever. Please, guys, maybe don't load your own carry ammo, and maybe don't go with the mom and shop, and don't go with like remanufactured on the hollow point stuff, right? This is factory new brass, and lot tested. That would be the other thing. So, okay, I do cycle through my hollow points. So meaning I have these from 2024, and the beginning of the year is typically when I do this. If you don't know about lot stuff, I know it's getting in the weeds a little bit, but I'm just going to tell you, when you buy a new box, say a year from now or 2 years or 5 years, it's not going to be the same exact ammo as before. It might be a grain weight off. It might be a little bit shorter. They could have changed the cartridge, or the brass might not be the same. Re-zero your gun, retest your gun, even though it is the exact same. You're talking about a year's difference in a company loading ammo.
Yes.
So that's the other thing I wanted to say. That's some nerd shit, but
no, that's super good. I mean, it just relates back to the training of understanding what you're doing, what you're carrying, how to use these tools, how the tools work, and then just understanding what it's going to be like to shoot your carry gun. I also would say that you don't have to only shoot your carry gun. So like I used to think that it was just like negligent to have like a carry gun. Maybe it's a smaller gun, like a Glock 43 or something like that. And then maybe you compete or take all these classes with a larger gun. I don't feel that way anymore, right? Because the shooting experience is so much better shooting a bigger gun. Some people you can essentially bully them into carrying and competing with the same gun, right? Like me, like that's what I do.
You and Billy.
Yeah. But like you look at us and like there's
You
clothing
couldn't blame
choices.
your polymer. I'm sorry. This is so funny.
There's clothing choices, right? There's gun choices, there's holster and belt choices. Like I don't wear clothes that don't support like a full size belt and things like that. But like some people, like that would be the weirdest thing for them to have to switch that, the way they dress or whatever. So it's not for everybody. But what I will say is if you are going to have separate guns, let's say you've got like
like I do.
Glock set, like yeah. Sure. So like a Nighthawk, right? What's the model that you have? I
have the boardroom double stack 9mm, and that training experience is so different. Yeah, and it's
incredible.
Pounds, 5 pounds versus ounces in these
but
guns.
It couldn't be any more different from the way that your carry gun shoots, like the Masada Slim.
Yeah.
When you compare the two, it's like apples to oranges. It's not even the same. It's not even the same ballpark. It's like
pizza to lemons.
Okay. Exactly. They couldn't be any more different. But as long as you are doing your due diligence of going, hey, this is competition range day, right? 3-gun range day. This is what's actually going to happen. And as long as you're placing the correct priority on that, you're good to go. But you can't go, hey, I'm training with this completely different platform, this completely different experience, and then expect to like rip like a Glock 27 out of your waistband and shred with it. Like no chance. Like you're not going to be able to split that gun the same, reload that gun the same, draw the same. Nothing is going to be the same. Right. So for that, I guess the last thing I would say with like, and we're looping all the way back to gun selection, but be aware of the kind of gun you're getting. Get something that's shootable, get something that you don't hate shooting. And maybe if it's your first gun or first couple of guns, consider getting something in the same family that's going to feel the same, shoot the same largely. And maybe the only difference is a little bit of a shorter grip, a little bit of a shorter barrel. Maybe they even take the same mags. That's kind of a plus, right? You save money there. So yeah, anyways.
Switching Kenzie, from the Walters is like the same mags. It's super nice. Sorry. That's a good point.
Yes. No. I love it. So, Kenzie, we've covered so much information, probably just info dumped, word vomited on everybody, which is great. But there's just so much to consider, right? Yeah. The one thing I will say too is the more time and effort and investment you put into this type of lifestyle, the more like, and this is going to sound so froofy, but like the more empowering it is, right? Like for me, there have been periods of time in my life where there's been a struggle every time I walk out the door of like, oh my gosh, like I don't want to like go get my gun, like it's upstairs and like I'm just going to the gas station that's 100 yards. Or even I'm just going out into my yard, which like I live in town, right? And like I'm just gonna go out with my dog, and then we're just gonna hang out or whatever. It takes a lot of commitment to like live this type of lifestyle, and a lot of things like you have to make a lot of sacrifices. But the trade-off is, hey, I've applied so much of myself, my time, my energy into learning how to run this, piece of plastic and steel, to the point where I know that I can protect myself. I now stand a chance against anybody of any size, of any, advantage. And depending on how good you get, maybe now you also have the ability to protect other people who are with you also, right? And so the more investment you put into it, in my opinion, you can't ever be good enough. Find something that you enjoy doing. And the upside is shooting is fun, right? You find things like competition, you get into stuff where that's pushing you to practice, it's giving you new things to practice. But at the end of the day, like you and I are probably both known for like primarily competitive shooting. But at the end of the day, we both put a gun back in our waistband, right? In our pants. And and that's like, if you could take away concealed carry or take away competition, like I would say goodbye to competition in a heartbeat. Goodbye. I would be sad because it's super fun and it's a hobby for me, but the concealed carry and the defensive side is part of your right as an American. Like we still have that right. Exercise it, be good at it, and take matters into your own hands, right? Be responsible for your own safety. It's so freaking cool.
100%. Yeah. I feel very empowered at who I am and what I've learned. And then it's a responsibility too. So you have to make sure you are mentally prepared and also that you can respect and take care of your own gun. Um, that responsibility factor, I'll just say really quick too, is like, do not leave your guns in your car. Please don't put them in the hands of people that don't know how to use them. Don't assume that people know how to use them either. I even striker fired guns. Honestly, it is your firearm. So if you just hand it over and this person you're with maybe has too big of an ego to train or learn or ask questions or dry fire your gun, there is not a single gun on this planet that I don't pick up if I don't know and I haven't shot that I don't dry fire first. When I'm at media events, even I ask, can I dry fire this? And they're like, oh wow, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I don't know this trigger. I don't know this gun. That's the biggest thing that I want to say. And then like taking the ownership also, like I said, you need to carry every single day wherever you go. I don't care if you and your spouse, your friend, your whatever, your kid both carry. It's not a thing where they're carrying, then I don't need to. They go to the bathroom, what are you going to do? If they get shot, what are you going to do? There's just so many scenarios. Like you need to be responsible for yourself. So that's the other thing I want to say. Make sure you clean it, make sure you maintain it, make sure you know where it is at all times, make sure you know how to travel with it. Traveling is actually when you need the gun the most versus being home or in the places that you go to all the time. So it blows my mind when people are like, oh, I don't need it. Actually, that's the one time you do need it. You don't know that town, that space, that wherever you're going. So that's the other. So just take this stuff really seriously and respect the tool that it is.
Yeah. And then as you learn, like get other people into it with you, right? Like, so I know you've had this experience. Everybody who carries has had this experience, but where you're the only gun in the group, right?
Yep.
Does that or does that not weigh differently on you than if, let's say, like you and me and I don't know, Frank Proctor or something, we're all hanging out together, right? Like there would be, you would feel differently about the one group versus the other group, right?
So we're at lunch 3 days ago with Nighthawk, the whole team. I know for a fact, because it is not a joke, that we do this every day. Every single person at the table had a gun on. I know where his is appendix. I know his backup mag. I could actually shoot his gun if I needed to, right? It's like, so I'm in a group like that. What frustrates me, and I'm going to call them out and they know this, but like Brooke finally just got her first carry gun. Kelly's starting to carry too. But like the fact that I go to dinner, go to meals, and I'm with all of these amazing, fantastic women, none of them have a gun on them. What the hell, guys? Or I go to Goals Con, going to that event and I'm the only one that's got a gun in the whole conference. We're in a place in a transitional environment that we don't know, in cities you don't know, and I'm the only one of 6 people with a gun. It is not my responsibility to take care of you. In that regard, correct. I probably take that on. Like there's just no excuse.
If you can, like you and your 10 rounds, like your first responsibility is to yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. But now when we have a bunch of people who are trained and know their capabilities and their limitations, well, now we can actually do something about the problem. Yeah. Yep. So get people into it with you.
Yeah, that's what's cool. It's like seeing Brooke and seeing Kelly and seeing them come towards it. And Casey and I like hanging out. Casey and I are building crap in my house and she's carrying every day. It is normal. And that's the other thing is like once you get past that first, like I would say month or so, it sounds crazy, but you almost forget that you have a gun on it. Once you figure out your system, don't change it. Don't tinker. Don't whatever. Just be comfortable in what you have. Stick with it. Keep training with it. Get familiar with it. And I'm telling you, it's just a normal thing where I just put on my gun. It's just as normal as me having my cell phone on me. Like that's the day.
Yep. And the people that you're with, the people you're surrounding yourself with, you're reinforcing that culture where everybody is competent and comfortable. But make sure as well, like other people who are not gun people, like are not gun people. Right. And so you have to also like take extra care with that type of stuff and like, don't leave your gun sitting around and like, or even just like getting out to show people, like, just like understand how much there was for you to learn. Right. And understand that you're responsible for that and educate people the right way. Don't just try to like blast them with this, like bring them to the range once, feed it to them in small pieces. And once they get hooked, right, then that's like, okay, cool. We're diving down the rabbit hole. Let me show you what I've learned and what's been helpful.
Yep. And don't tell them what they should carry or what they should, but give them options. Give them
give them starting points, right? Yep. Maybe steer them away from things that you know for a fact are terrible, but give them options for the good stuff, right? And then let them start doing the digging. And I think that's super valuable.
Good talk.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Well, before we go, I just want to ask you, a couple of like questions that we'll try to keep fairly short and sweet. Okay. So Okay, I don't know. Okay, well, we'll keep this one short. So for Kenzie, who just started carrying, versus 2024 Kenzie, if you could go back in time and tell that Kenzie one thing about like the conversations we had today, what would be the one thing that you would tell her?
Google more, because I did not do any research, I feel like, when it came to that holster and when it came to what I should have attached a light or what have you, or dry fired or taken a class. It took me too long. So yeah, didn't do
Cool.
enough.
Cool. So probably back to the same thing of like find somebody who can help you with that process and get more information before you just start buying things willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. What's your all-time favorite carry gun?
Oh, how do I pick one? I really do love my IWI Masada Slim. There's probably a sentimental value to it as well, but flat trigger, the fact that the optic sits flush on it, you got 13+1 capacity. That's the biggest thing too. If you hear me out on this, I didn't say this, but 10 should be your minimum when you're looking at carry guns. Minimum. Now there's 12, there's 13. There's no excuse to be like me with the Glock 43. I've had it for 10 years, but like 6 rounds, no. That's my favorite. It really is. I love that trigger.
Okay.
That was hard. That was mean, by the way.
It's a hard one. Also, it's purple, right? So that plays
and,
into it.
And it has the Gals Day logo on it. I will say that really quick too. I mean, this is actually a very sentimental gun to me, but it was a gift from IWI, so my Gals Day logo is on the top of it. It's very special to me. So.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about this, so we don't have to jump into it, but start with a red dot or no?
Yes. And I'll say real quick, it's not for you getting really good with a red dot or a new shooter having easier time with the red dot, because a red dot is impossible to learn getting started. Doesn't matter if you're starting with irons or you're starting with it. Here's why. As an instructor, when there is a rear sight and a front sight and someone shoots and I ask them, where did the front sight go? Where did that shot go? Without them looking at their target, they say, I don't know. I was like, cool. Were you tracking the front sight? Yeah. Well, do you know if he went up, went down, went left, went sideways? When they see that red dot and they shoot the same exact gun, but put a red dot on it, they can communicate to their instructor and say, I saw the dot move left. I saw the dot go high. I couldn't find the dot. Okay, we're not even aligning the gun right? So it's more of a training tool and a communication tool to understand what is happening with that firearm. I don't care if you take it off after that and you go to irons. Your irons are doing the exact same thing and telling you the same information. A red dot is just faster to teach and learn.
Yes, totally agree. Way easier to process the information with a dot. And I think the dot actually does give you more information as well because it's smaller. But yeah, okay. Very cool. Lots of dot options for you guys. I would say, in addition, get a gun that is already ready to accept a dot from the factory. Don't mess around with trying to mill it. That's generally like kind of a process that is going away a little bit, but it's intimidating for new people for sure. If you're experienced, like I don't care. Like I know guys who only send their guns out to get milled.
Never.
Awesome. I actually think that's probably a little bit better than some of the mounting systems out there. But if you're new, like just get something that's already ready to go from the factory. Like there's no reason not to. In fact, all of the gun companies are discontinuing their models that aren't red dot compatible. So at that point, like they're going to go away eventually.
But I'm frustrated the ones that are.
Most of them are.
There's no reason. Well, I know some that are coming out with new ones that are irons only and will be. But it's like,
well, that's stupid.
It is stupid. And the fact that companies do people, Glock is one of them. The fact that they're like, we're going to release this gun in irons, and then a year later, we're going to add the MOS. And it's like, why did I just buy 2 guns? They know that their market is going to buy and buy and buy. Yeah. Wait for the MOS model. I'm just telling you. I've seen the market. Okay.
That's fair.
It's brilliant, but it's dumb.
That's fair. All right. Kenzie, I think we've bothered the people long enough. What do you want to plug? How can people find you? Where should they follow you? How can they support you?
Yeah, so 3Gun Kenzie across all these social media platforms. You can check me out also on Reticle Up podcast and on YouTube for that. But I don't want to leave this with me. What I want to leave this podcast with, please, is bring the new shooter to the range, teach the next generation of gun owners, teach responsibility, go train, and then maybe you become an instructor one day. Maybe you're the next person to pass it on. And then here's what I want to end this with. Never, it doesn't matter who you are, stop continuing your education. Always keep training, always keep learning, always keep taking different perspectives of advice or what have you. So just leave this impacting the next generation, because our gun rights are at risk, our ownership is at risk, our magazine capacity is just, it's too much. The fact that I take a step in a different state and now the complete gun laws have changed is ridiculous. We're in America. It should be the same soil across the board. I'm just preaching here, but I'm just telling you, I'm very passionate about this. These rights cannot go away. This is how we save lives. So
yes. 100%. I love it. All right, guys, that's it for our episode today. Thank you for tuning in again. Just on the admin side of the house, thanks for being patient with me, going through some changes with like the structure of the company and things like that, the content schedule. I am going to try to get these podcasts knocked out much more regularly. So if there's somebody that you want to hear from, there's especially a topic of conversation that you want me to hit on, I probably know somebody who's an expert in that. So drop that in the comments below of what you want to hear. If you have questions for Kenzie, I'm going to link all of her information in the notes, so you can go click on her links or social media stuff, follow her, listen to her podcast. She puts out a bunch of really fun episodes as well. Guys, you guys know we've got to pay the bills. The best way to support Gateway Defense is by training with us. We're trying to make a full-time thing of this, which is not always the easiest thing, but we love doing what we do. And so you guys coming out to a class allows us to make this happen. The classes that I've got coming up, we've got a pistol mastery class, which is very competition focused, and my most advanced class that's coming up in Casa Grande, Arizona, in just a couple of weeks, October 5th and 6th. We've got Performance Pistol in Waxahachie, Texas on November 16th and 17th, and Performance Pistol in Azusa, California, down at Burro Canyon. That's December 7th and 8th. So those are the classes that I still have for the rest of the year that have open spots in them. Would love to see you come out and train, and maybe we can throw down with some concealment stuff as well, if that's something you're looking for. So with that, I will let you guys... We'll kind of cut it off there, and really looking forward to the next podcasts that are coming out. Guys, thanks for listening. Until next time, keep practicing shooting, and we'll see you on the range.